Hi, it's Andy, and I just wanted to say thank you for tuning into the Leading Life podcast. I think this episode is really going to be helpful and maybe clarify some things for you, because I think we get so caught up in our lives. We're running all the time. There's so many competing priorities. We don't just actually take the time to think better. I wish I had a more eloquent way to put that, but really just use our brains and think through things. So I hope this episode impacts you, because that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. I appreciate you being here. Let's dig into it. Welcome to the Leading Life podcast, the place where leadership meets real life. Here is where we talk about leading with intention, living with clarity, and getting better results for the people we serve every single day. If you're ready to grow, you're in the right place. Right now, on today's episode, how to learn to think like a genius. Yes, you're listening to the Leading Life podcast, and if you're looking to learn, grow, lead, and live with purpose, then you are in the right place. I'm Andy Zook, your host, and each episode here is designed to give you real-world tools to help you show up as your best self at work, at home, and in all aspects of your life. So I promise no fluff, no hustle hype, no phony positivity, just clarity and execution, real proven actionable steps that work. And today we're diving into something that impacts every single person listening. Let me ask you a powerful question today. What if the real difference between average results and extraordinary results wasn't talent, not opportunity, but how deeply you are willing to think? What if I told you you have the ability, you listening right now, you have the ability to process thoughts like the greatest minds in the world? Because your leadership, your relationship, your finances, your confidence all flow from one source, and that is the quality of your thoughts. So today, I'm going to actually teach you to think like a genius and give you 8 practical mental habits used by some of the most intelligent and effective people in history. Habits you can start applying immediately to make better decisions, lead more clearly, and live more intentionally. Most performance problems are actually thinking problems. Think about it this way. People are busy, but people are capable. Many people are only reacting instead of reflecting. So when you react, your life gets driven by circumstances. But when you think deeply, you start driving your life. And this matters because we live in a time of constant mental noise, more than ever. Notifications, endless scrolling, opinions, urgency. The modern world trains shallow thinking. But meaningful success, the kind that builds stronger careers, strong families, and strong inner peace, well, that comes from deliberate thinking. And the most intelligent people in history were not always the fastest thinkers, but they were the most intentional thinkers. They paused, they questioned, they examined assumptions, and they thought about consequences. And that is a trainable skill. So let's talk about your brain first. When you slow down and analyze, you activate the prefrontal cortex. And remember, that's the part of your brain responsible for judgment, planning, and emotional regulation. When you constantly react, you operate from more primitive survival circuitry. So in simple terms, think of it this way. Deep thinking literally makes you wiser over time. You are strengthening neural pathways that support insight and disciplined decision-making. So this is not just philosophy, it's true mental training. Let's dig in. The number one thing great thinkers slow down before they form conclusions. Highly intelligent thinkers resist the urge to immediately judge a situation. They understand that first impressions are often emotional, incomplete, or shaped by past experiences rather than the present reality. I think we need to say that again, because that's really powerful. Slow down before you form the conclusion, because we often come from a place of first impressions that are emotional, incomplete, or shaped by past experiences rather than present reality. When something important happens, let's say it's a disagreement, a business opportunity, or a difficult decision that you have to make, I want you to intentionally pause, slow down and observe, gather more perspective, and allow the emotional intensity of the moment to settle before deciding what it truly means. Before responding to an important email, conversation, or decision, give yourself a structured thinking pause. Ask, what facts do I already know? What assumptions might I be making? And what would be a calm, wise version of me to do here? The simple habit dramatically improves judgment over time. Here's an example. I was getting into a discussion with a coworker about a famous murder trial back in the day. And the short version of this was that I was hanging on to emotion and data in what society thought from 1995, not 2026. And so we have come to learn so much more now, and so much psychology and knowledge about the brain has expanded in that time. And so I had to close the door on the 1995 version of events and open my mind to how evidence could be viewed now. So sometimes we have to make sure that we're not making assumptions, that we know the facts, and react with a more calm, wise version of ourselves. All right, so the second thing that great minds do is they ask better questions. Powerful thinkers don't accept surface explanations. They are more deeply curious about causes, motivations, and hidden dynamics. So instead of asking, why is this frustrating, they ask, what system or pattern is creating this outcome? And then instead of asking, why did this happen to me, they ask, what can this teach me about strategy, preparation, or communication? So when you're facing a reoccurring challenge, I want you to write down the situation and ask 5 progressive why questions. Each question should go deeper than the last one. This process will often reveal root causes that reactive thinking completely misses. Great thinkers are not always those with the fastest answers, but they are the ones with the most penetrating questions. All right, number 3, they think in cause and effect chains. Yes, intelligent people naturally project forward. They understand that every behavior compounds over time. They don't just evaluate decisions based on immediate comfort or short-term relief. They consider the trajectory. So they think, if I continue this pattern for 6 months, what will happen? Or if I strengthen this habit for 5 years, who might I become? Before making a meaningful choice, visualize 3 timelines: the short-term outcome, the mid-term impact, and the long-term identity shift. This will train your brain to think more strategically instead of impulsively. Number 4, they reflect on what they learn. So most people consume information passively, but deep thinkers interact with information actively. So they compare new ideas to their own experience. They test concepts in real life, and they ask whether something is universally true or just context dependent. So after finishing a book chapter or a podcast episode or meaningful conversation, write down one idea that challenged you, or one idea that you can apply to your life this week, or one question you still have remaining. Reflection turns knowledge into usable wisdom. Number 5, they used first principles thinking. Instead of following tradition blindly, powerful thinkers break problems down into the most basic truths. They separate facts from assumptions. This allows them to innovate, simplify complexity, and avoid unnecessary limitations created by the way things have always been done. So take a current obstacle and write 2 lists: facts that are objectively true, and then beliefs or stories that you may be adding on top. That's a great way to use first principle thinking. Then rebuild your strategy starting only from verified realities. This approach often reveals new and creative solutions. Number 6, they write to clarify their thoughts. So writing exposes confusion and strengthens clarity. Many great leaders and innovators kept journals because writing slows the mind enough to organize it. When thoughts remain internal, they often feel larger or scarier and even more complex than they may be at all. Writing gives them shape and proportion. So set a timer for 10 minutes. Write freely about a decision, fear, or a goal. Do not worry about grammar or structure. Simply transfer mental noise onto real paper, because clarity frequently emerges in the process. I remember years ago, I had a really difficult situation at work, and I just wrote it out, asked every question possible. And you know what? It made taking care of that issue so much easier because I was prepared. I had everything compartmentalized in my mind on how to handle it. All right, number 7, they seek intellectual challenge. Yeah, I think that's big. Deep thinkers are not threatened by new ideas. They are energized by them. They understand that growth requires exposure to perspectives that stretch their identity and their worldview. They listen with curiosity rather than defensiveness. So once per week, just intentionally engage with a thoughtful viewpoint that differs from your own. Don't get into an argument. Don't argue to win, but to understand. Listen and understand, because this expands cognitive flexibility, one of the strongest predictors of long-term leadership effectiveness. And number 8, they protect their time to think. Yeah, sounds simple, but perhaps the greatest modern intelligence advantage is the ability to create uninterrupted mental space. We live in this distracted culture. Focus itself just becomes a rare asset. Great thinkers design their environment to support depth. They schedule quiet time for reflection, planning, and creative problem solving. So I want you to try this week. Block 30 minutes daily for just intellectual thinking. Use this time to review your goals, analyze challenges, or explore new ideas. Just write it down and then start to think about it. Treat it as seriously as you would an important meeting, because over months and years, this habit compounds into extraordinary clarity and foresight. So here's why this matters for your leadership. Leaders who think clearly create calmer environments. Leaders who think strategically build sustainable success. And leaders who think independently create innovation. So if you upgrade your thinking habits, you upgrade your presence, you upgrade your decision quality, you will upgrade the future you are building. Deep thinking is not an academic exercise. It's a competitive advantage in life. This week, I want you to choose one of these 8 habits. I guess that's kind of a predictable call to action for you, but yeah, you don't have to do all 8. Just pick one and really explore it. Remember, number 1, they slow down before forming conclusions. Number 2, they ask better questions. Number 3, they think in cause and effect chains. Number 4, they reflect on what they learn. Number 5, they used first principles thinking. Number 6, they seek intellectual challenge. Number 7, they write to clarify their thoughts. And number 8, they protect their time to think. So practice one of those 8 consistently for the week ahead, 7 days. Small upgrades in thinking create massive upgrades in your living. Your external results rarely rise above your internal clarity. All right, so here's a couple questions I want to leave you with as we close out the episode. Where in my life am I reacting too quickly? What assumption might be limiting my growth right now? What important decision deserves deeper thought? And when was the last time I sat in silence and truly reflected? What kind of thinker do I want to become over the next 5 years? All right, so I hope this helps. That's my episode. I hope it impacted you for the better. Please, if it did, leave me a rating and review on whatever platform you hear me on. And please hit subscribe so you won't miss another episode of the Leading Life Podcast. If this episode gave you clarity, please share it with someone you feel it might help. And until next time, I want you to lead with purpose, live with intention, and keep becoming who you were meant to be. That best version of you that I know is inside of you. But most importantly, I want you to go out and be the hero of somebody's story today. I'm Andy Zook. This is the Leading Life Podcast. Take care, and I'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye.